something that's not related to Ukraine or Command and Conquer. I mean, imagine that. Isn't that kind of crazy? So we have some stuff that we're going to cover today. Hopefully, this won't be a super long stream, but I've been talking about this periodically, and it's some articles popped up in my feed relating to this for Canada, and obviously I'm Canadian, so I thought, hey, why don't we have a discussion about this and take a look at this article. So this is something I've been talking a lot about. This is something basically every Western country is having massive problems with. Um, More or less, what keeps happening is none of these people are able to. Uh, None of these people are able to recruit enough soldiers to fill their armies. No one wants to join like any of them. It's got to the point I think in like the U.S. and sorry in the U.K. where they've had to start closing ships. They've had to start closing military bases. It's a disaster, and this gets worse as time goes on. But it's strangely enough, it seems that like some other countries don't have trouble meeting their recruitment. Russia recruitment numbers. Uh, let's see here. My understanding is Russia has not had to do. Let's see here. Yeah, Russia, I don't think has been having to do any additional mobilization since the start of the war. They had to do a round of mobilization during the. Sorry, let me just take a step back. They had to do an initial round of mobilization when it started, but aside from that, uh, let's see, triple K Mafia. I'm a Canadian who was going to join the Canadian forces but gave up and went to Russia. I will have citizenship soon there and will be conscripted in about 3 months. Oh, okay, cool, Triple K Mafia. Maybe you can confirm. My understanding is Russian soldiers generally receive about a year of training and experience before they're expected to go into combat. Because everything I've read is that the people who are being recruited are still getting the full year of training before they get sent to fight in Ukraine. Is my understanding to that. Be conscripted in about 3 months. I know everybody has to do their tour of service, but I'm not sure if they're still sending conscripts to the front line. They've had. I think what I mean is I don't think they've had to mobilize reservists. I have no idea who Canadian Prepper is. I'm sorry. But yeah, Russia has not had to do another round of mobilization. My understanding is they've issued very generous, or they've dramatically increased the benefits and pay soldiers are getting, and they had a very successful recruitment campaign. We will look at that again in a minute. Let's see here. Numbers of volunteers are growing. Yeah, to my understanding, yeah, Russia has had to. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they recruited a lot of the men after the mandatory service. Yeah, a lot of men who finished their service agree to stay on as contract soldiers. Now, in the West, they will say that they were forced into doing this by the Putin, but they might just like military life, or it pays better than a job they might get in a private sector, or they're living their life like how it is and they don't want to change things up. Like they have stuff figured out, so why not stay on a bit longer? Let's see here. But my understanding is, yeah, it's been going. been going through that. I can't find an actual source, so sorry about that. The claim in Russia is that about 1,600 people sign up on a daily basis, so they haven't had to mobilize more conscripts. Although, here is the thing, and we'll get into this for a second. I'm sorry, I'm not going to make this about the Russo-Ukraine war. Ukraine apparently has only lost 31,000 men, so it doesn't need conscription. Let me see. How is the Chinese army doing for recruitment? Chinese army recruitment. Let's see here. It's okay. So Newsweek is claiming that China is having trouble. We'll see. I'd have to let's see receipts on this. Let's see here. Okay, so apparently the PLA is having trouble. Okay, here we go. Triple AK Mafia. It used to be 3 years minimum service of conscription. Now it's 2 years. Putin said no conscripts will go to the front or active combat. Russian soldiers used to get $400 a month before the war. Now they get about $2,000 a month, which is absolutely unheard of for a monthly income. Okay, so that makes sense. So I guess the contract soldiers, you can correct me if I'm wrong, who were in other places in the country, like maybe they were on the border with the Baltic states, or Russia has a border with Poland, right? I'm tripping out. Pretty sure Russia has a border with Poland. I feel really stupid. No, Russia does not have a border with Poland. Okay. Soldiers who are maybe in Belarus or on the border with the Baltic states or in the Caucasus or in the Far East or in Kaliningrad or something like that. I'm sure those are the guys who are getting redeployed to Ukraine, and the people who are doing their term of service are being relocated there to hold up those positions. Although, as they've said, according to the Wall Street Journal, 97% of Russia's army is currently in Ukraine. So they have nothing in the east. They have nothing in anywhere other than Ukraine. So that's okay. So this is a problem the UK has been having. This is a problem the US has been having and stuff like that. Russia doesn't seem to be having a huge problem. China looks like it's having a bit of a problem. I think a lot of that, though, is just because of the one-child policy, at least it's saying. But we aren't seeing anything like the critical shortage that we're having in Western countries. So let's go through the Canadian article about the Canadian Army. The Canadian Forces is facing a death spiral when it comes to recruitment, even as the government is constrained on more defense spending. Defense Minister Bill Blair says. Let's see what the federal budget is in Canada. Let me see here. It has the breakdown. Defense is defense. Oh no, that's revenue. Where is defense spending? I don't even see it. Canadian federal budget breakdown. I'm just trying to find where defense spending is. It doesn't look like it's even listed. It must be that small. Canadian federal budget, defense spending. Okay, Canada is like the lowest in NATO. I'm just trying to find the budget. Okay, so national defense is, yeah, it's pretty rough. Um, it's pretty rough. Yeah, so it's not very high in Canada. Canada is known for having underfunded its military forces for years. You have to keep in mind that consistent underspending increases the costs later on. I'm sure like almost none of our equipment probably works at this point in time. Everything probably needs to be replaced and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can find like a good um, breakdown of the Canadian federal budget so I get a better idea um, of how to do this. Okay, so they're cutting defense spending. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so Canada will spend $30 billion on defense. Let's see, what is the Canadian federal government budget? Canadian federal budget. Wow, okay. The budget deficit is going to be 40 billion. Okay, so let me just see what it is. Sorry, I should have done more pre-reading for this. Uh, I'm just trying to. Where does it say like how much is it? Like, just tell me how much it is. Why is this so hard? Okay, let's see. 2023. How much was it? Okay, 2023. Okay, so the budget is approximately $500 billion, of which 30 billion went to defense. So that's what, like 30 divided by 500. That's 6% of federal spending. And that's federal spending, keep in mind. Um, that's federal spending. So it's not very much. Uh, People really shit on Harper for trying to like rebuild the Canadian military. Let's see here. Those show reductions in defense spending over the next of about $1 billion a year over the next 3 years. These cutbacks will come from infrastructure and travel budgets as well as funding used for private sector contractors. In addition, there could be money pulled back from future programs, but officials provided no details. Well, getting rid of contracts, private sector contractors is probably good. The problem is that like military spending really doesn't tell you anything because stuff costs such different amounts of money based on the country. Like America's spending is 10 times what Russia spends, but I think shell prices in Russia, the cost of the Russian industry to produce a shell is, I think, like a fifth of what America's is. I can't remember exact numbers off the top of my head. But the point is, it's also keep in mind like average wages in different countries, like average wage by country. And then there's also prices. Like we have that cringy Tucker Carlson video where he's talking about how cheap stuff is in Russia. And I mean, people will also show in Russia for having low income, but it's that's why you have to look at purchasing power parity, because it's a lot of countries aren't as wealthy or as poor as you might think that they are. Like, let me see here, Russia. Oh, it doesn't. Russia's not even here. Okay. Russia's not even on this list. But you get the point I'm trying to make, right? The defense spending. Where is Canada on this list? Is Canada even on this list? Okay, no way are we 14th. That's not true. It's not true. There's no way Canada spends more money on defense than Israel. There's no way there's no reality in which that's real. Then again, I don't know what all they put under the Canadian Army. So maybe. We are like 5 or 6 times the size, population wise. Probably a lot of the Canadian budget goes to doing like rescue operations and stuff in the north of the country. Anything in northern Canada is just a massive money black hole. So, but the point I was trying to make is, spending is really no indication of actual like military performance, nor an indication of the quality of equipment an army is able to buy. Like Saudi Arabia spends a fuck ton of money on the defense. They give their troops the most expensive shit in the world, and they got completely blown out by the Houthis. I mean, the U.S. lost to the Taliban, if you want to put it that way. It's not necessarily the case. Also, keep it like Ukraine on paper has very high military spending. Japan on paper has very high military spending. It's not a one-to-one comparison. So the point being that it doesn't even really matter if they're raising or lowering it. It's how much corruption there is, how many kickbacks there are, and that kind of thing. I think probably a more useful metric would be countries that have government, state-owned or non-state-owned defense industries, because I find that tends to be a massive difference in capacity. Let me see. How much... The Su-35 is the current Russian fighter, right? Okay, so it claims that they cost about... We'll average in, say, about 60 million. Really, they're more comparable than I thought. Interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of gonna have to press out the X to doubt that an F-35 costs the same as a Sukhoi 35. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a Putin shill. But the point is that a lot of this shit is just really expensive, and the prices in the military sector make 0 sense. And the whole thing is just run as a giant grift mill. If you want to see like the most corrupt sectors in the economy are probably agriculture and defense. I'm not sure which one is worse, but they're both just horrifically run. And it just screws the taxpayer and farmers and pretty much just everybody. It's a black hole of money. Okay, so let's get back to this. We will achieve savings from activities that have a history. By the way, just a side note, it's kind of funny on Twitter because people are doing all of these, like what flags you have in your profile and what they mean. And on so many of them, it goes like Russia, Palestine, Taiwan, and it says does not exist for a lot of them. They're like, these people don't exist, and I'm like, what? And then they said that then there was another one where it was Russia, Palestine, Red China means you're a neo-Nazi, and I'm like, why is being pro-Russian, pro-communism make you a German ultranationalist? I don't get it. We will achieve these savings from activities that have a history of underspending their approved funds and from initiatives to be delivered in future years. That doesn't sound ominous at all. Priority equipment and key capabilities, however, will retain their funding or could see more money. So we're gonna spend more money by spending less. We're going to modernize NORAD. There's no timeline, but it's going to be modernized. Let's see. The cutbacks come at a time is facing increased pressure, particularly from the U.S. to spend more money on defense. An interview aired February 25th. David Cohen, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, acknowledged the significant funds the country has already spent on new military purchases and on Ukraine aid. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, the Canadian government should just give money to the U.S. Like, they should just give the defense budget to America and just say, here's the defense budget, just blow it on the MIC. In the event that we're attacked, we expect you to defend us. Because the Canadian Army is like a joke. Like, it's not a serious armed force. I mean, Canada's not a serious country. Like, I think they should either come up with some sort of protectorate agreement where Canada just gives money to the U.S. for its defense, or they kick Canada out of NATO. The problem is you can't kick Canada out of NATO because it's too important for the U.S.'s defense. So it's also like part of the point of NATO is for stuff like Operation OBGYN. Operation Prosperity Garden, or as I like to call it, Operation OBGYN, wherein, like, we just have all these loser countries that don't really even have armies that are all jumping on board, like Denmark, a country who just gave away all of its artillery. Yep. Denmark gave all of its artillery. So we have like Denmark, we have Norway, we have Canada. So I guess they want to keep these countries in like the countries on their shitty coalitions of the losers. Like, this whole coalition was basically just the U.S., and these people all pretended to partake in it. But they don't. Anyways. I like, though, how much people got irritated by Trump's comment on NATO spending. Like, that he's like, look, you guys have to meet the... like what you agreed to. You all agreed to 2% of GDP. Like, most of you guys didn't do it. You're gonna have to like do that. If you don't, then why should we defend you? If you're not willing to spend any money to defend yourself, and we have to keep spending the money to do that, is more or less what happened. NATO has Remember, Iceland has no armed forces. Well, that's convenient. Why is Iceland even in NATO then? Are they just excluded from it? But yeah, so all of these countries, the logic that that was here is that the Europeans were saying is, even if we spend nothing on our defense, the U.S. has to come and save us, is more or less the attitude. That's why people got really upset about it, and that's why people got really angry about it. They're like, no, like, America has to come and help us and save us from Russia or whoever, even if we don't spend any money on our own defense. Iceland pays into the NATO budget. Okay, fair enough. That is an acceptable answer. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that would probably make sense for a lot of smaller countries like Belgium or Denmark or the Baltic states or something like that would probably make more sense. And then just maintain like a smaller army for national security purposes. Let's see here. Our economic plan is about building more homes faster, making life more affordable, and creating more good jobs, she said. But they won't do the one thing that would. Oh, okay, sorry, we'll go back to that. Over the past 3 decades, more people have left than entered. Over the past 3 years, that is, frankly, a death spiral for the Canadian Armed Forces. We cannot afford to continue at the pace. We can do something differently. So I'm going to pull the checks. We'll get to this in a minute. What is the reason that Canadians don't want to join the armed forces? What is the major stopping block? What is it that they think needs to change in order to get people to join the army? I'm just going to ask the chat that. People post in the chat what you think the article is going to say is the problem with the Canadian Army and why they can't get recruits. We're gonna say. Let's see here. Okay, Bill Blair's comments. Okay, our economic plan is about building more homes faster, making more life affordable, and creating good jobs. She said, "No, I mean it isn't. Like, hey, Rain, you want to come over here and sit in my lap?" Okay, Rain just climbed into my lap. But like they're unwilling to do the thing that would actually do that, which is to reduce immigration. Because Trudeau believes, and this won the RG Award for Worst Take of 2023, that increasing immigration will lower housing prices. So the more they increase immigration, the lower housing prices will go, and the more wages will go up. Because if you increase the supply of labor, that raises wages, and if you increase the supply of labor, that increases wages. And if you increase the demand for housing without increasing the supply of housing, that lowers the price of housing. Triple K Mafia, if you don't mind me asking, what part of Canada were you from? I'm just curious. You don't have to tell me if that's a dox. I'm just interested. Let's see here. The path will unlock pathways to a good middle class life for the next generation, because Canada is stronger when everyone has an equal chance to succeed. You don't believe that, like, at all? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You're from Vancouver Island. I spent most of my life in Toronto, so I'd imagine that that's pretty similar. It is beautiful there. I went there once. It is very green there, and the climate seemed nice. Together, we're going to unlock a brighter, more prosperous future. 1 in 4 believe the government should reduce overall spending, but 43% want to increase spending on housing, even if it means raising deficits. The program also showed strong approval for boosting income support programs for low-income Canadians with disabilities, as well as for the National Dental Care Program. A key demand of the supply and confidence. Okay, like, part of the issue is some of this, like, these welfare programs might work if you had a high trust society where you could count on most of the population not scamming the system. But Canada has increasingly become a low trust society. Let's see here. Where are we? We have steadily increased military funding with a plan to increase spending by 70%. What needs to change on recruitment? The Canadian Forces have been facing a recruitment shortage and lengthy delays in procurement of new equipment for years, which experts say has reduced Canada's military readiness. Canadians have no military readiness. The recruitment challenges come after exclusive reporting for Global News that began in early 2021, detailing what experts call the crisis of sexual misconduct in the military. So, when there was sexual misconduct in the military, um, they didn't have trouble with recruitment. Is that what they're saying here? So the solution, I guess, would be to bring back sexual misconduct to the military because it didn't seem it was a problem before that. Okay, here we go. The reputational problem has been compounded by concerns about the presence of right-wing extremists and racism in the ranks, which a review said last year were factors repulsing new recruits. That's what it is. That's what it is. The fat liberal lesbian Chinese Canadian girl, she would have joined the army, but it's racism. That's it. How much you want to bet that like racism describes like center right males who vote conservative, like not even people who vote for Bernier, like not people like me, just guys who are like whatever center right means by Canadian, like dudes who are basically not complete F slurs and have a little bit of self respect and believe stuff like criminals should go to jail or you should keep most of the money you earn or stuff like that. How much you want to bet that that is who they're defying as extremists? That's probably who it is. It's probably just like normie conservatives or like white guys from rural areas or something. It's probably not people like me. Blair said he's taking a hard look at expanding eligibility for recruitment. Abolish outdated medical requirements that are not meaningful. Uh-oh. That is a bad sign. Someone who lives in rural Canada, which is where most people who serve in the military come from, I can say the real reason people don't join is because morale for the country's in the dumps right now. Yeah, like, if you were to join the Canadian Army, who would you actually go to fight? Like, let's just be honest. Do you want to go? Let's see, who has Canada fought? Let's see, list of wars involving Canada. Let's see, who's Canada fought? Also, this is a fucking great idea. Let's get rid of outdated medical requirements. That is always a good sign. Isn't that what they had to do during like World War One, particularly in Britain, once they just kept throwing men into the meat grinder? I feel like that was that was a big one. Let's see here. List of wars involving Canada. So let's see. What are the wars that Canada has been involved in the last couple decades? The Red Sea crisis. Canada deployed 3 dudes. That was part of Operation OGBYN. Okay, there was the attack on ISIS. Literally the only good thing the Canadian Army has done in like a long time. Canada was like somewhat involved in that. Oh yeah, there's the Libyan Civil War. That was something that Canadians could be proud of. We'll get to Afghanistan in a minute. That's like, who doesn't want to go to Libya, kill Gaddafi, and then cause the refugee crisis? There was the war in Afghanistan. Now, I've said that I think the initial war in Afghanistan was probably necessary. I think the U.S. took a bloody nose after 9/11, and they kind of had to do something. So, would have to do something. But what they should have done, and I maintain this, is they should have just gone in, bombed the Taliban, put the Northern Alliance in power, declared victory, and go home. Like, there is no need to stay there for like 20 years and try to deal with that. It's just nonsense. Okay, I guess there was Kosovo. You can go and kill Christians. You can go kill Serbs to defend Muslims. That's cool. You can go steal territory that was historically part of Serbia and give it to Albanians. What is this? Operation Medec project. Okay, trying some other thing against Serbia. Some more fighting against Serbia on behalf of Muslims. I guess there was the intervention in Somalia. Um, wow, like but anyways, the point of the matter is, um, and who would you go and like fight if you were in the Canadian Army today? Who would you go to fight? Would you go to fight Russia? Russia's probably the most likely. Do you want to get sent to Ukraine and and serve as a volunteer soldier? Um, and then get sent to the front lines and die for Zelensky and die for Global Homo? Like, is that really what you want to do? You want to go there and do that, or I don't know what else would the Canadian Army even do? The thing is that I'm actually kind of happy that the Canadian Army is out of manpower. Okay, what are the odds? Let's just think about this for a minute. Let's just really consider this. What are the odds that the Canadian Army would be used to suppress to oppress Canadians versus the odds that the Canadian Army would be used to fight an actual threat or to do an actual war, to participate in an actual war? That makes sense. So I will say I 100% supported the war against ISIS. I think that was based. I get that the Americans created ISIS, but I think that was good that we participated in that. To be honest, it's the whole ISIS thing was a shit show. So, like, so what's more likely? Like China's going to invade, or I don't know, someone's going to invade, or there's going to be a trucker convoy protest and the Canadian government is going to deploy the Canadian Army and just order them to start massacring people, or order them to to target people like me and just to execute us. What's more likely, that or they'll do anything like that would actually help the Canadian people or serve the interests of Canada? I mean, I don't think that's even really arguable. Is that even a question at this point in time? That it would be much more likely to be used by Justo or his successor? Do you think if Jagmeet Singh came to power, or like someone else, they wouldn't want to use the Canadian Army to like enforce hate speech laws or something? Maybe what they'll do is they'll go and they'll shoot people who are trying to protect the border, or something like that. So we have that. So the Canadian government's main problem. Let's see here. What is this? Suicide prevention campaign. Let's see here. Here we go. This is what's causing it. Not wokeness, not the fact that these people are fucking F-slurs, none of this stuff. It's this. Systematic racism is rampant throughout the Canadian Armed Forces, repulsing new recruits and putting at risk the country's national security if jobs continue to go unfilled, according to a bombshell report. In stark terms, the report probing racism in the Canadian military lays out why fixing the toxic environment goes to the heart of the military's ability to do the crucial jobs entrusted to it. Why was recruitment not a problem before they started trying to fix the toxic culture? To sum it up, more and more Canadians have no interest in joining until the military fixes its long-standing interconnected issues of racism, abuse of power, gender discrimination, and sexual misconduct. As part of that, the report says military brass must accept that some members will either leave or need to be removed. So that's the plan, guys. The plan is we're going to purge the military. We're going to purge the military of the few people left who actually want to be there, in the hope that the people who don't want to be there will decide they want to be there. That's the plan, guys. That's the plan. It's addition by subtraction, additions by subtraction. Racism in Canada is not a glitch in the system. It is the system. Oh, this is so cringe. Let's see here. The report, discrimination, including barriers facing Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ, and women members within its ranks. But women don't exist. As well as barriers facing Canadians with disabilities. What? Barriers facing Canadians with disabilities. I see. I mean, I guess, like, if you're doing intelligence work or computer work or something else that doesn't require, like, a high standard of physical fitness, I guess if you have someone in that, like, specialization, then yeah, sure, if that person is like disabled or something, why not? But that's not what they mean when they say this. They mean we don't need fitness standards. We can have just obese people who can't run to join the army. And don't get me wrong, I'm overweight myself, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm a model of health, that I should stand at that I'm in any shape for military service at the moment. I'm going to be honest. I will probably vote for Poilievre just because I want Justo gone. Okay, your military's come under intense scrutiny. Okay, well, here we go. Military culture. Countless experts pointing to a culture described as one where abuses of power too often flourish unchecked, and where members who are not white, male, cisgendered, and heterosexual face discrimination and retaliation for speaking out. I'm trying to remember where it is. Repulsing Canadians from joining its workforce. 71% of our militaries are white men, compared with 39% of the civilian workforce. So we can't let them join the army. They have to be removed from it. How to tackle white supremacy. Among the questions weighed in by the panel was the military's response to white supremacy in the ranks. Are there even white supremacists in the Canadian Army? Is that even a thing? I feel like they purged all those guys decades ago. In some cases, terrorist ideologies that share similar things of anti-immigrant, anti-government, anti-Semitic, and anti-women views, many of which of those are rooted in notions of white supremacy. See, you can't do it. Like, you can't have, if you hold a political opinion that we don't like, even if it's not yet illegal to hold it, you can't be in the army. If you think Canada should have borders, you can't be in the army. They just can't. Membership in extremist groups is growing. It's becoming increasingly covert, and technological advances such as darknet encryption methods pose significant challenges in detecting these members. Now, here is what's, and I bring this up every time because I think it's important just to put this into context. This is once again what I like to call the natural disaster view of history, that things have no context, there's no societal forces, these things just kind of happen. White males are just becoming radicalized. They're just evil. There's no reason for that. They don't feel disaffected. It's not anything you're doing. It's not the educational system. It's nothing like that. It's just something that happened. It's just something that happened, and there's no explanation for it. I don't know why these people feel alienated. Canadians just don't want to join the army. I don't know why. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with the education system. It doesn't have anything to do with rhetoric or stuff like that or stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's the mystery Scooby Doo couldn't solve. We need to get Steve from Blue's Clues on this one. Ignorance, poor. Okay, the report cited ignorance, poor education, and narrow view of the traditional ideological spectrum. See? We need re-education. Now, once again, and I've talked about this many times, who are the type of people who would normally serve in the army, who would like to do that? I mean, it's young males who feel a connection to their country, who want to serve their country. Or even if they don't want to serve their country, they want to have a sense of purpose. It's very important to people in general to have a sense of purpose, particularly if you're a young male and you're not sure where to go in your life. And I think a lot of people, and maybe this is a cliche, do say, I want to serve my country. I want to find out the kind of man I am. I can join the army. I can learn a skill. I can see some of the world. I can learn self-discipline. I can make a difference. I can serve my country. And I think a lot of men join with that purpose. Now, when you have like shit like this, why would anyone want to join this? Why would a white male want to die for this country that hates them so much, that despises them? Why would anyone want to die for it? Also, it's like Canada is like, there's no identity. It's diversity is our strength. Why would anyone want to die for that? Why would you want to die for someone that's not your people, that's not your religion, that's not like your culture, who looks down on you in a lot of cases? I mean, I went to school with like a bunch of Pakis, and they just hated the white kids. And like one of them would tell me how like they were going to kill us once they were the majority and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, so we're going to fight to defend that system. Who wants to go die for Justo? Who wants to die for Justo and his vision of Canada? Who wants to die for a country that like is gassing people who have mental illnesses? Like, why? And it's once again, it's like young Canadians. Now, it's sorry to kind of go off on a bunch of tangents, but that's how these streams go. There was a post on Twitter a while back that I thought was one of the greatest things of all time. You know how people say I'm economically conservative but socially liberal? This person said I'm economically incel but fiscally volcel. I'm fiscally false. I'm fiscally incel, but socially volcel. I think I got that right. But the point is, like, that the person was celibate for religious reasons, but he just couldn't afford a house. He couldn't afford to get married and have kids. And that's just the affordability thing with the price of housing, groceries, everything else facing kids. That a lot of the people I know who would want to get married and would want to have a family and desire that kind of thing, they just can't. Like, and they just they want to provide their kids. Maybe the standards of what they want to give their kids is too much. Maybe it's too high for that. But I think that's how a lot of people feel. And they see a future in which they're basically just going to be plugging along for the rest of their lives. And we talk about, like, and I was going to do a video called Money But Not Wealthy, or Disposable Income But Not Wealth. So, like, people in my age group and Zoomers and stuff make enough money to get by and probably make enough money so they have some cash left over to play video games or buy OnlyFans or stuff like that, or come up with some pretentious hobby like buying rare alcohol. And we have they have uh, disposable income for that, but they don't have enough disposable income for like big things in life, like a house, um, savings, investments, getting married and having kids and stuff like that. And yeah, that's just, I think, kind of how it is. Um, you have a generation of people who just have no stake in the system, who don't think they have any future in the system. And I've talked to a lot of people who go on Canadian Reddit, God forbid, and they say even people on the left like are saying this. Even people who are otherwise very left wing are saying like, I don't think I have a future really. Um, I was a member of the base, a militant white supremacist um, organization, the base. Wow, the RCMP, CSIS couldn't come up with something in the base. Are any of these supposed white supremacist groups actually real? Like, do any of them actually exist, or are they just all like inventions of? I call it the Federal Bureau of Infrastructure and the Concrete Construction Corporation. They're just kind of federal jobs programs. Maybe that's like the only federal jobs program left for white males, is they can join the FBI or CSIS or something and create a fake hate group. No, and a lot of people just feel like they can't be bothered really to join the military, or no, I lost my train of thought there. Save money, invest money because inflation's so high, and they don't really have anywhere to put it. Now, I have my money in diversified ETFs, so they should be growing faster than inflation, but so yeah, the Canadian Army is entering a critical downward spiral. I think the other thing that you have to keep in mind, and I know I have a lot of people who have served in the Army who watch my channel, but part of, I think, what's really important in the military is that you have at least some people who are veterans, preferably people who have served in a war, at least people who have served in the Army for a while, so they can show the other guy, teach the other guys the ropes, help them get along, help them adjust to military life, so that you have like a pool to draw from, particularly in wartime, of officers. Like if you look at the U.S. Officer Corps, a lot of the ones who are generally considered more effective, served in military operations in the Gulf War. So they're like men who have actually led men in combat are an invaluable resource. And Russia will have enough dudes for decades with actual military experience who they can use to fill officer slots and stuff like that. And their veteran army will be able to help train their other soldiers. And the longer this goes on and the more these things decay, the more when it actually they have to figure it out, they aren't going to have any of that institutional knowledge. They aren't going to have experienced guys. They aren't going to have guys who know what they're doing to help the guys who don't. And my understanding is that is a severe problem, and that is only going to get worse as time goes on. So, let's see here. Also, so my understanding, okay, let's see here. Vast majority of permanent residents applying to join military not accepted in first year of eligibility. Well, this couldn't be part of the problem. And it's like this for everything in Canada, not just for the government, but as well for the private sector. Like, I have a friend who has a master's degree, and he's a native speaker of French and English. He's Franco-Canadian. He grew up speaking both languages interchangeably. He's trying to get a job with government, and they're just so incompetent, and the HR policy is so bad. They can't they can't hire him, and it's like they are so desperate for French speakers in Canada. Theoretically, they will hire if you can speak French fluently and English fluently. And you have a pulse. You meet the standards, but they're so inept. They're so incapable of doing anything basically. Let's see here. Residence eager. Oh no, this is permanent residents. Sorry. Okay, no, this is not citizens. Okay, I keep forgetting that permanent residence doesn't mean Canadian citizens. Um, Sorry about that, but I think it still takes about a year. Um, of course, the new U.S. plan is to like pull a Roman Empire, um, who allows people to join. Uh, Anyways, so that's about all I had to say. I just wanted to bring it up. I think overall it's a good thing, just because I think more likely than anything the Canadian Army would just be used to repress Canadians, and violently put down any kind of riot. So that's my thoughts on the matter. God bless everybody. Have a good week. If I have enough, I'll do a UCU video tomorrow, but I'm not sure if I